Imagine walking into a bank, but the notes in your hand might not be accepted. In Libya, there are two rival versions of the same currency. Your salary might be paid by one government, ignored by the other, and whether that paycheck is honored depends on who controls the territory where your bank is located. It sounds like political satire, but for Libyans, it's daily life. A nation sitting on some of the richest oil reserves in Africa, yet torn between two rival governments. One controls the east, the other controls the west. Both claim to be the real Libya. Both claim the right to collect oil revenues, set budgets, and run the central bank. So here's the paradox. Libya is a country with more oil than it can sell, but less governance than it can survive on. A place where power doesn't just mean electricity, it means control over who gets to call themselves the government. And the bigger question, can two governments rule one country? Or do they just ruin it? To understand Libya's predicament, you have to go back. For much of the 20th century, oil transformed Libya from desert poverty into apparent prosperity. Under Muammar Gaddafi, oil revenues paid for schools, hospitals, housing, and subsidies. Libyans had one of the highest GDP per capita levels in Africa, but that wealth masked fragility. Institutions were hollowed out, power centralized around Gaddafi, and dissent crushed. Oil was the glue that held everything together until 2011. When the regime collapsed. What followed was not rebirth, but fragmentation. With no strong institutions to fall back on, militias filled the vacuum. By 2014, Libya split into two competing governments, one based in Tripoli in the west, recognized by the UN, the other in Tobruk in the east. Backed by different factions and foreign patrons. Both claimed legitimacy, both refused to yield. For ordinary Libyans, this division isn't abstract. It's felt every day. Teachers sometimes go months without pay because rival ministries can't agree on a budget. Doctors in the same hospital might get salaries from different authorities, one paid, one ignored. Families juggle competing versions of the Libyan dinar, hoarding foreign currency as a hedge against inflation. Entrepreneurs who want to import goods can't get stable contracts honored across both regions. Everyone lives with uncertainty. Economically, governments control three big levers: collecting revenue, spending money, and managing monetary authority. In Libya, each lever is fractured. Two finance ministries issue competing budgets. Two central banks print rival currencies. Two sets of oil authorities claim the right to sell barrels to the world. It's like trying to drive a car with two people in the front seat. One steering, one pressing the accelerator, while a third insists they're in charge of the brakes. At best, the car lurches forward. At worst, it crashes. Libya's wealth begins and ends with oil. It has the largest proven reserves in Africa, producing some of the easiest to refine crude in the world. On paper, Libya should be rich, but in practice, oil has become the battlefield. Rival factions blockade oil fields or ports, not for technical reasons, but as bargaining chips. Billions in revenues vanish into escrow accounts, as international buyers hesitate to choose sides. Instead of schools and highways, oil money fuels militias and corruption. At one point, rival governments even printed different versions of the Libyan dinar. Imagine two competing $10 bills in circulation, both claiming to be real. In some towns, one is accepted. In others, only the rival note works. Prices fluctuate wildly, not because of supply and demand, but because of politics. A simple cup of tea could cost more or less, depending on which side of the country you're standing in. The human toll is chaos. Civil servants don't know if their salaries are secure. Families hoard dollars under mattresses because they don't trust their own currency. Inflation eats away at savings. Black markets flourish. And for many, survival depends more on bribes at checkpoints than on wages from the state. The tragedy is that Libya doesn't lack resources. It lacks unity. It is a nation rich in oil, but poor in governance. History offers comparisons. After World War II, Germany split in two. East Germany stagnated under central planning. West Germany boomed with exports. Korea provides an even sharper lesson. Two nations, two systems, one prosperous, one impoverished. Sudan split into Sudan and South Sudan in 2011, largely over oil disputes. Instead of prosperity, both ended up poorer, trapped in cycles of mistrust. Cyprus is another reminder. Decades after division, the island remains split, its economy permanently distorted by a frozen conflict. Yemen, too, offers parallels, where rival governments and militias divide authority, leaving citizens trapped in perpetual crisis. But Libya is different in one crucial way. It hasn't formally split. On maps, on paper, at the United Nations, Libya is still one country, and that limbo makes it uniquely unstable. Oil buyers don't know who to pay. Foreign banks don't know whose signatures to honor. Investors stay away, unsure which authority will last. Some optimists argue that Libya's dual competition creates a crude balance of power. Neither side can dominate, so both are forced into stalemate. Rival authorities sometimes even buy loyalty through subsidies or salary hikes, giving citizens short-term benefits. But these are illusions. Duplicated bureaucracies waste money. Rival budgets fuel inflation. Oil revenue goes not into investment, but into patronage networks and weapons. This is the resource curse in its most extreme form. Oil isn't just the economy, it's the battlefield. It should be Libya's greatest strength. Instead, it entrenches division. And the split doesn't just affect Libyans. Foreign powers have turned the conflict into a proxy war. Turkey and Qatar support one side. Egypt, Russia, and the UAE back the other. Each offers money, weapons, or mercenaries in exchange for influence and oil contracts. Libya becomes less a sovereign state than a chessboard. The ripple effects are global. Migration routes across the Mediterranean run through Libya, sending desperate people toward Europe whenever instability spikes. Oil blockades ripple into global fuel prices, reminding the world that even a fractured Libya can affect international markets. Instability in Libya reverberates far beyond North Africa. So, can two governments rule one country? Technically, yes. Libya proves it's possible. But ruling isn't the same as governing, and governing isn't the same as creating prosperity. Libya's dual system is not balance. It's paralysis. And here's the thought experiment. Could this ever be a model? Could deeply polarized countries elsewhere, in Africa, in the Middle East, even in the United States, ever try a system of dual governance to keep both sides at the table? History suggests the answer is no. Dual authority rarely becomes stable. It usually breeds duplication, mistrust, and stagnation. Power sharing often turns into power hoarding, and the economic costs are staggering. Libya's future depends on breaking this cycle. The potential is undeniable. With its oil, its ports, and its geography, Libya could be a hub of trade and energy. Instead, it remains a warning. Prosperity isn't about what's underground. It's about what's above ground. Institutions, trust, and coordination. The irony couldn't be sharper. Libya is rich in oil, but poor in stability. The very resource that should guarantee prosperity instead fuels division. The very governments meant to provide order instead create chaos. So maybe the real question isn't whether two governments can rule one country. It's whether a country divided can ever truly rule itself. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't worry, there's only one EconoFocus. Though if I ever did split into two rival channels, one would probably promise higher quality graphics, while the other would just hand out more bad puns. Subscribe before the split happens.